Hello class, this is the second video covering section 2.7. In the last video we discussed horizontal and vertical axis intercepts, and now we're going to discuss the interpretation. What is the meaning of horizontal or vertical intercept? So let's go to the next page. I mean, there's an example here and they show you how they work through the problem. But let's take a look at the next page and do a practice problem. Here's a practice exercise. Okay, so it says Julio's received a $40 gift card to the local movie theater. He plans to see a movie every week on Tuesdays when the price to see a movie is $5 all day. If Y represents the amount of money remaining on the gift card and X represents how many movies he's seen, write the rule that models. Okay, so you're told that Y represents the amount on the card. So let's just change our ink. My equation might look something like, I'm going to write the equation up here. So for letter A, I'm going to write the equation here. So Y, that's the amount of money I have left over, is going to be equal to, how much was on the gift card initially? $40. And every time I see a movie, I take away or subtract $5. So it's $5 times the number of movies I see. Right? So my card starts out with 40 bucks. I take away $5 every time I see a movie. So X is the number of movies. And if you want to write it in Y equals MX plus B form, you might write Y equals minus 5X plus 40. Right? Either way would work, right? So if you did this, you would be correct. If you did this, you would also be correct. Okay? So letter A is done. Letter B says find the horizontal intercept and interpret the meaning. So for the horizontal intercept, this is where you sub in 0 for Y, right? And then you would find X. So if I sub in 0 for Y, right, that's me putting a 0 in here, I'd be left with 0 equals minus 5X plus 40. I would add 5X to both sides, right, because we have to solve for X. And now I'm left with 5X equals 40. And if we divide everything by 5, you're left with X equals 8, right? So as an ordered pair, I would write 8, 0. Now, that's not enough, because the question is saying to interpret, right, the meaning. Well, if X represents movies, right, that's X, and Y represents the value remaining on the card, we could say, and maybe I'll type this up using the typewriter tool. So I typed it in. So for problem B, I just want to make sure you realize this is problem B, not C. After watching 8 movies, $0 remain on the card. Because remember, X represents the number of movies and Y represents the value on the card. Right? So if I see 8 movies at $5 a piece, $0 will be left on the card. Okay? So I'm going to leave this up for a moment and then we'll answer question C. So I'm going to erase all of this work. So if you want to pause the video to copy or write everything down, that's fine. And then we'll do letter C. Okay, so for letter C, it now says find the vertical axis intercept. So for this one, this is where we're going to sub in 0 for X, and then we find Y. Right? The last problem, we subbed in 0 for Y to find X. But now we sub in 0 for X and find Y. So if I sub in 0 for X, I'd be left with Y equals negative 5 times 0 plus 40, which is the same as Y equals 40. So as an ordered pair, it would be X was 0, Y was 40. Right? So that's my ordered pair. And remember, if X is the number of movies and y is the value that remains on the card, you could say something like, if I've seen 0 movies, the value of my card is $40, right? Or the initial value of my card is $40. Right, so I used my, my typewriter tool to write the initial value of the card is $40, right? After 0 movies, $40 remains on the card. Okay, next, we're going to use function notation to find the horizontal and vertical axis intercepts. And they tell you back in 2.1, we discussed how to find f of x if we were given x, and how to find x if we were given f of x. And remember, f of x, sometimes we could just substitute with the value y, right? So I could find y if I know x, I could find x if I know y. And then they give us a little definition here in the yellow box. So maybe you want to take a moment to just take a look at this. And then I'll show you this in practice, right? So if I look at example 3, it says find the x and y intercepts, write both intercepts as ordered pairs, and then graph them. Okay, let's do that. So for letter A, if I want the x-intercept, right, the x-intercept, I'm going to abbreviate. I'm going to sub in 0 for f of x, right, or 0 for y, and I'm going to solve this problem, right? So if I maybe add 9 to both sides, I'm left with 9 equals 3x, and then if we divide everything by 3, you're left with 3 equals x. So as an ordered pair, this would be 3, 0. Okay? And for the y-intercept, I'm going to just erase this letter B just for the time being. I'll bring it back, but just to give us some more room to work with. All right, so that was the x-intercept. The y-intercept, right, that's where we sub in 0 for x, right, and find y, right? So I'm going to write f of x equals 3 times 0 minus 9. So that means f of x equals minus 9, which is the same as y equals minus 9. The ordered pair would be 0, minus 9. So now that I have 2 points, 1, 2, I can plot this or I can graph it. You know, my graph's going to look ugly because I don't have graph paper, but I'm going to do it right now. And then we can take a look to see how our graph appears. So here's my rough graph, and I'm going to plot those 2 points. Let's see here. Oh, there we go. So I want to plot 3, 0. So here is 3, 0. And then I want to plot this 0, negative 9. So that looks something like this. And then my graph, or my line, if I can kind of get through both points, something like that. That's what my graph might look like, okay? So I'm going to stop here, and I'll do another video to help work through the rest of section 2.7. Thank you for watching.